We're going to start today with the Philadelphia Eagles and Nick Foles. This has been a story that's kind of been rotating around recently in the past couple of days. What are the Philadelphia Eagles going to do about Nick Foles? Now, here's a little bit of the details with Nick. They are trying to get something for him. They don't just want him to walk away in free agency and get nothing for him, because the reports are that there's actually a market for Nick Foles. So they can probably maybe get a trade out there to get something back for him. So they want to re-sign him, but it gets a little tricky here. Here's what they can do. Nick Foles has a $20 million option to play for the Eagles this next year. So the Eagles could sign him to that $20 million and then trade him. But Nick Foles could technically sign his $20 million option, buy back in with the Eagles, then he could pay the Eagles $2 million back and buy his freedom. He then could become a free agent, walk away, and sign with whoever he wanted. Now, if he does that, the Eagles can then come back in, a little bit confusing, but come back in here, franchise tag him, and then trade him away. So now, basically what this all means is that I believe the Eagles and Nick Foles are going to work out a deal where they're going to sign him for 2019, whether that's through the $20 million option or the franchise tag, and then trade him. Technically, like I said, Nick Foles could buy his freedom, but I think if the Eagles and Nick Foles work together here and kind of work out a team that he would want to be traded to, then you could see a scenario where you don't have this three-step process where Nick Foles has to re-sign, then he buys his freedom, then the Eagles franchise tag him, then they trade him. It's as simple as the Eagles can either re-sign him, trade him, or franchise tag him and trade him. Either way, it looks like the Eagles are going to be getting something in return for Nick Foles. The question is, what can it be? They reportedly want a third-round pick for Nick Foles. The resume's there, right? Super Bowl MVP last year, 4-1 in the postseason with the Eagles. For me, the top landing spots for teams that would want to trade for Nick Foles: Jacksonville #1, the Broncos #2, and then maybe inside the division with the Washington Redskins. That one's probably a little bit less likely because the Eagles don't want to deal Nick Foles, who I think is a pretty good quarterback, to a team they have to face twice a year. Look for Jacksonville here. If Jacksonville offers a third-round pick for Nick Foles to the Eagles, I think it's a done deal, and Nick Foles is going to play for Jacksonville this year. Either way, big picture for the Cowboy fans here, big picture for any fans in general, Nick Foles will not be an Eagle next year. This is going to be Carson Wentz's team. It's a matter of the Eagles trying to get something in return for him, which is smart. It's what they really should do. Get something in return. That way you can get that third-round draft pick and go get another pass rusher or get another cornerback or whatever the Eagles want to do with it. Overall, what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section down below. Where do you think Nick Foles will be playing in 2019? Jags, Broncos, Redskins. Is there another team you think he might play for? Let me know in the comment section down below. Sticking on with the Eagles here, they re-signed two key defensive players, RODNEY McLeod and Paul WORRILOW, through 2019. This is actually a pretty good move for the Philadelphia Eagles because it frees up a lot of cap space, especially with RODNEY McLeod. Now, if you're not familiar with RODNEY McLeod, he's a safety for the Eagles. He started last year until he got injured, tore his ACL in Week 3, and the Eagles owed him $7.5 million this year, but were able to work some magic, move some money around, and they made it to where now they will only owe him $1.5 million this year. So it's a really team-friendly deal, and it keeps RODNEY McLeod as an Eagle through 2019. Listen, this is a really good safety, and I think an underrated safety overall for the Eagles. You already know Malcolm Jenkins. He's great, but RODNEY McLeod is really another big hitter back there and a pretty good coverage safety who the Eagles relied upon heavily during their Super Bowl run just 2 years ago. In 2016, opposing quarterbacks had a 55.0 QBR when throwing at RODNEY McLeod. He's a really good safety. Yes, he was injured, but the Eagles were able to move some money around and make it to where he doesn't hurt them against the cap as much as he would have, and it's a team-friendly deal. So if he comes back from his ACL and is great, they can re-sign him again. If not, after a year, they're able to let him go. And of course, the addition of Paul WORRILOW, he tore his ACL in this past offseason. Actually, the first day of training camp, Paul WORRILOW tore his ACL. He was previously with the Lions, 415 tackles and 52 starts, and this is good to keep some, I guess, some backup, a backup in there in case the Eagles are unable to re-sign Hicks or Reynolds or Alexander. Those are all set to be free agents. So the Eagles re-signing Paul WORRILOW and also adding RODNEY McLeod, signing them through 2019, I think is a pretty good move for the Eagles there. Remember, that defense actually played really well in the postseason, but they were banged up. Both their starting corners were out. Rodney McLeod was injured. They lost pass rushers, so you re-sign these core guys, and the Eagles might be able to have a pretty good defense coming up in 2019. Finally, we just mentioned the pass rusher for the Eagles. There's some rumors floating around that the Eagles might be in the market to sign a free agent pass rusher. The NFL insider Tony Pauline thinks, like he said, the Birds might add a pass rusher in free agency. Now, here's the deal. Brandon Graham, the Eagles' star defensive end, he was the one who stripped Tom Brady in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. Remember that? A really good defensive end, not just rushing the passer, but also against the run. He is set to become a free agent. Now, he had somewhat of a down year this year compared to 2 years ago where he was really good, but the market is still going to be there for this pass rusher, so they might let him walk. Then you're going to throw in the fact that Chris Long, he's 34. Michael Bennett is going to turn 34 in November. The Eagles are suddenly at a need at defensive end, and if they could go into free agency, maybe look at some of the available pass rushers. There's a ton of really good pass rushers available in this free agency. Jadeveon Clowney, DeMarcus Lawrence, Dee Ford, Bruce Irvin, even a guy like Frank Clark had 13 sacks with Seattle this past year. Now, some of these might get re-signed. Maybe Dallas is able to find a way to find the money for DeMarcus Lawrence. Maybe Houston keeps Jadeveon Clowney. But with how many free agent pass rushers there is going to be some good ones available. And there's some interesting facts there. Will the Eagles make a run at a pass rusher if they let Brandon Graham go? They need to address it one way or the other. Whether they draft someone in the first round with their 25th overall pick, or they sign someone in free agency, or they do both, the Eagles are really in need of a pass rusher, and they might be able to add it through free agency. So what do you guys think? Let me know down below. Who do you think is the better free agent pass rusher? Would you rather have DeMarcus Lawrence or Jadeveon Clowney? Type D down below for Jadeveon Clowney, or excuse me, D for DeMarcus Lawrence, or J down below for Jadeveon Clowney.